Well, good morning. Today is Sunday, June 28th, 2026, and I am looking at the Avalanche chart, ticker symbol AVAX, on Binance. Now, before we get started, I am an amateur trader and investor. I have a day job that does not involve finance. Therefore, I wouldn't consider myself a professional. I have no licenses, anything like that. And I don't have probably the nuance of a professional trader. However, I do like charting, and it has become kind of a big hobby for me over the last few years. And what I like to do on this channel is just simply go over what I'm seeing on the charts. And if this helps you make a decision on whether you want to invest in a particular asset or do some more research, I consider my goal done. So, this is not me saying that you must invest into this and you got to get in now, that type of thing. I'm just showing you what I'm seeing on the charts and what I find interesting. So, last time we spoke about the AVAX token, based on my notes, we talked about how price had been ranging, and this had happened since about, I put in my notes since March, but it's actually been February. And so this is February 2026, and we kind of have like this high point here, and then you had this trend line is kind of like the support. And we had last spoken here on June 1st. Okay. And you can go look at the video at that time and see how much I botched it or something. But it just so happens that on June 1st, later, because I usually do my videos pretty early in the morning, you saw that price started to crash, and now we're at a new support level. And for the last few days in June, so this crash came down, hit this support level about, let's say, June 19th. And for on a daily perspective, I'll just explode this a little bit. Okay, we have been ranging. Okay, and so we had another downside move with AVAX. So now the question is what are we expecting in the future? Well, if I take a look at the, I'm going to bring this. Let's bring this back here. I do see another possible support zone of this area, and this would be about the $2.18 to $3.07, where we could have price come down to here. So that would be another very significant drop, because that'd be about another half, since we're sitting at about $6.34, you're talking about going down another $3. Okay. All right. Now, I don't know if it's actually going to do that. I'm not going to look at momentum indicators or anything like that today, because I want to just talk about one specific concept. I've been really worried about how long these videos have become, um, and I do like doing kind of like an in-depth overview of a particular asset, but I kind of felt like I did that on the last video, so I just want to talk about one concept today. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over to this chart here, and we're going to talk about, I'm going to call it the wave theory. I don't think it's really a theory. It's something that's seen in the charts all the time, but when it's talked about, it's more talked about on a much lower time frames, like we're talking, 5 minute, 15 minutes, all the way up to the daily. You sometimes may hear it mentioned on a weekly scale, but if you're just going by YouTube videos alone, it's more mentioned on the daily charts. Okay, and what I mean by that is day traders. Okay, traders who enter and exit the trade on the same day. Okay, and what this theory is is that each asset typically has 3 to 5 waves of a price movement. Most of the time, it ends at 3 waves. However, you can have a fourth and fifth wave. It's common enough that it's been noticed you have a fourth and a fifth wave. However, after the fifth wave, it's extremely uncommon. Okay, I do not know what the percentages are. I'm just saying, from a perspective of, if you do a lot of trading, you will see typically 3 to 5 waves of price movement on a chart. So what I mean by price movement is this. I'm just going to move this up here, and I'm going to bring out my drawing tool. So a wave would be something like this, okay? You're in a ranging market here, okay? And then you have your move up, and this would be called wave 1. And then you have a pause. And there's 3 types of pauses. One pause is you go like this. This is probably what you're most used to. Higher highs, higher lows. Okay, so this would be wave 2. So that's one type of pause where you have the correction of the price going down. Another type of pause is you can just simply have sideways action and then up. And so you see that a lot in trading as well, where price can kind of just, when I say sideways, it's not flat, but you're just having like a little, and then boom, you have top. So that would be, so this sideways action is another type of pause you can have. Okay. And then you have what's called the blip pause, and that's where it just kind of does this and then goes up. And from a day trading perspective, you typically say that each pause has to have at least 2 candles. Okay. Um, so that's kind of like the wave theory. Okay. But what I want to do with AVAX is I'm going to explode that out of the daily and 5-minute, 15-minute charts. And we're going to do this from a long-term perspective. So the first way we're going to look at this is on the weekly perspective. Okay, and hopefully I'm going to unhide these correctly. Okay, but that's the wrong one. Okay, so we had this bull market September 2023 to March of 2024. And then we had what appeared to be a bear run. And as you can see, I'm calling this kind of like the bear run. Now, one thing, I'm going to take this off here. One thing to notice is you could make a case, and I noticed this after the fact, so I apologize about that. But notice that you have some downside action, sideways action, downside action, a quick blip pause, and then you're down here. So as you can see, even from a daily perspective, you saw 3 waves. I'm sorry about that. And but if but the reason why I'm calling this all one wave is because I didn't really see any pivot points here until we got down to here. So I'm just going to put that back. I think it's this one. And so now, we had a pivot point, and we kind of had this move up. Okay. And this is what I'm going to call pause 1. And then this took us from August of 2024 to, let's see, this was December 2024. And so that to me wasn't really much of a bull market. And plus it made a lower high. And therefore I still think that this is the same bear market here. So I'm going to call this, okay, so I'm going to call this wave 2. Okay, and keep in mind when we're talking about the waves, we're talking about downward action. Okay, so here's our higher high, here's our lower high, here's our lower low, this is our lower low here. Okay, and then we had another kind of what was considered a bull run from about April of 2025 up to September of 2025. And again, this is what I'm trying to say. It's not much of a bull run, but that's what's kind of presented on a daily scale. And so what I'm saying is now we're here. Okay, we're at wave 3, and it ended when this sideways action. And I know this drawing is not really showing it correctly, but we've ended it when the sideways action kind of dropped. Okay. All right, this is definitely a pause. Okay, this this sideways action here. So this was wave 3. And so this right here, if I were to, I'm not going to do an elliptical, but let's do a trend line here. So from this drop of this line here, this would be wave 4. So we were at the 3 waves. And as I mentioned, there are usually 3 to 4 waves. So if this is wave 4, okay, then does this mean that there is a 5th wave coming after we finish this pause, which looks like it's going to be a sideways action pause? Okay, is there going to be a 5th wave going down? And that is very possible. Okay, so keep in mind, I know I don't have an elliptical over this. What I'm saying is that we've had wave 4. We're in pause 4, and so we are waiting to see if there's going to be a 5th wave to the downside. Okay, from a weekly chart perspective. Okay, now I'm not going to talk about what are the signs as far as whether we're going to have more sideways action or more drop, but I'm just going to tell you based on what I was looking at earlier. Momentum is in the tank. The stochastic RSI is in the bottom. There's no signs that it even wants to travel across the 20. You can go look at it on the chart yourself. You can just map the stochastic RSI. From the RSI perspective, we are in the tank. And I guess I could just go over that real quick. We'll just go back to this chart here. And if we take it to the weekly chart, you can see that stochastic RSI is, the RSI overbought, oversold is the lowest it's ever been. We're in oversold territory. From a momentum perspective of the stochastic RSI, we're down at as low as you can go. We're at about 3. And, you want it to travel across this 20 to have more momentum. From a money flow index, which measures overbought, oversold, we're at halfway point. So based on the volume and price, as we've been going down, people have been throwing and selling money into AVAX, but we're not in an area that's considered way oversold based on the money flow index. Okay. So that being said, okay, the short answer is yes, I'm expecting more downside for AVAX, or I'm expected it to just sideways action and not, and from a perspective of momentum, I don't see it changing anytime soon. However, what I am saying is I think we are on the end of AVAX's bear run. And when I say the end, I think we could have a few more months of a bear run. Okay. Now I want to show you another perspective to take us down the rabbit hole even further. Okay. And if my theory is correct, then I'm even more excited about AVAX having a very explosive bull run whenever it starts. Okay. I don't have that. I can't tell you from the chart when that's going to happen because I'm not really seeing signs that the bull run is starting. But what I do see is signs of the bear run at its end. Okay. So we're going to go to the 3-month chart, and I'm going to try to make this. I'm going to try to make this good, and I'm going to hide this text here. Okay. And as you can tell, when we drew our waves for the weekly chart, this is kind of how it's aligned from the 3-month chart. Now, keep in mind, each candle is representing 3 months of price action. So this is a quarterly perspective of AVAX. Okay. Well, if we go down the rabbit hole further, okay, I want you to notice something, and I find this interesting. Now, earlier I mentioned that pauses had to have at least 2 candles. So the question is if you're on a much higher time frame, does it actually have to have a 2 candle pause? But if you look at it from a perspective of a wave perspective, You had this candle, pause 1, this candle, pause 2, and then these two candles combined, wave 3. Okay. And the reason why I'm calling this the same wave is because it's about pivot points, right? This was your top pivot point. Here's your pause, and then you're keeping up. So this was the bull run that took us to, from like, all right, 84 cents to, 150 bucks. Okay. All right. Now, this was the start of the bear market over here when you went from the high and you now started making your way down. Okay. And so if I go back up to here, and if you look at it from a 3-month perspective, okay, from this year, January 2022 and October 2022, okay, what I'm trying to say, this has been a wave, okay, and then you had your pause, okay. This is kind of like doing it went higher, but this was like a bear. This was like a bull 180. Okay, you had this bear candle taken out by a bull candle, and then the wave continues. Oops, I clicked the wrong one. Okay, and you had this as wave 2, and then you had a much longer pause than expected with these two bars. So for 2 quarters, you had bullish action, but then you started your waves down. Okay. So, what I'm saying, if we look at it from a 3-month perspective, if we're looking at it from a 3-month perspective, we could be on wave 5, and it hasn't finished. Keep in mind, this candle hasn't finished printing. It has 2 more days until it's going to print. And even though price is ranging from a candle perspective, looking at the 3-month candle, it could very well in line have 2 other candles coming down like this. Imagine that these are red, okay? It could very well do this, something like this. And then you would start your bull market, okay? Now, the last bull market was 3 waves, and it was, I'm going to explode this down a little bit here. It was from here all the way to here, which was a 17,355% gain. Once you, if you had bought here, okay, and put significant money, okay, you made a lot of money. I'm not going to do the math, but I wouldn't be surprised if you were close to $1 million. Okay. All right. Somebody got rich if they bought down here and then waited till you exited here. Okay. A lot of money. All right. All right. You don't get that from a bank ever. Okay. All right. So if we are going to be ending our bear market, I'm just going to say that it's going to probably end sometime here in 2026. Okay. Worst case, January, February of 2027. Okay. Uh, if we end this, then does that mean we have another 17,000% run? No, I don't think that. I make no price point predictions or anything like that. However, I do think it may be we would have enough momentum if it has another 3 waves that it could push us past this long-term trend line, and it doesn't look very well on the whenever you explode something up and down on trading view, it doesn't always align the trends long enough. But what I'm trying to say, it could very well make a new all-time high. Okay. And the question is where is it going to make the all-time high from? Is it going to start from down here, or is it going to start from here? Only time will tell. So if you are an investor in AVAX and you're wondering, does this particular asset have any future? In my mind, the answer is yes. I am actually very bullish on AVAX. The next question is, well, where should I start investing my money if I am not in AVAX? Well, I think now is actually a pretty good time to invest, except it really depends on your risk tolerance. Okay, I am a long term position trader, so I am used to not timing the exact bottom. There's nobody who can time the exact bottom or the exact top. I just try to get into a range, and I started investing AVAX up here. So I'm already down $3 a share, okay, based on what I put in up here, okay? And what I'm trying to say is I'm going to expect it to go down here. Uh, you do not have to do what I do. But if you are very concerned about money, you could put stop losses. I recommend doing it about here because I'm not going to get into it today, but institutions, when a clear trend line is established, to get liquidity, they sometimes will bring the price because they have the money to do it. They can manipulate the price below this trend line to try to wipe out uh, people who were establishing longs at this particular point. Okay. So I don't usually put stop losses. Okay. But you could very well put your money here and then set a stop loss for down here, and that would limit your risk. Another option is that if you think it's going to drop lower, you could put some buy limits down here, and you could make the stop loss below here. So if it even has more downside, uh, then that would cover you as well. So I would encourage you to take this decision to the Lord, to pray about it, to really analyze it. Maybe get another opinion on it. Before you invest yourself. I'm just telling you what I'm doing. Okay. And I do think that AVAX is going to have a good bull run. I do not know when it's going to start, other than my theory is that I think that 2026 is going to be the end of the bear market for AVAX. And I do think that there is a good possibility based on the momentum that I'm seeing in the charts at the moment uh, to this point right here. Uh, what it will do is probably sometime in the future, maybe at the end of July, early August, we'll take another look at AVAX and see if there's any signs that the market is reversing. If I notice something before that, I will try to point it out. I can't guarantee it, but that's where I'm at with AVAX today, and I still am pretty excited about it. It's just, you just have to have patience. And so, with that, I'm going to end the video. May God bless your day.